Right, so this is all getting very serious for Keir Starmer's Labour now. The accusations of discrimination, of anti-black racism, of Islamophobia are really starting to add up now. It was literally just 2 days ago I did a video where it's been shown that Labour is discriminating against a black MP to protect two white allies of Keir Starmer from the boundary changes that are coming in. Let them pick where they want to go. And just yesterday evening, news broke that an entire Constituency Labour Party has collapsed again, and not the first time under Starmer. But in this instance, it has been because a Muslim candidate of Egyptian descent, standing to be longlisted to be Copeland's Labour candidate up in Cumbria, had failed to make the long list, all despite the fact he had been Copeland CLP's long-term secretary. Believe me, the biggest role in a CLP by far is the secretary, and all done voluntarily. But he's also a Labour councillor on Copeland Borough Council. The chap in question is one Joseph Ghayouba. I hope I'm saying that correctly. A popular guy in local Labour circles, a popular choice to stand as the Labour candidate for Copeland, which was, until fairly recently, a Labour-held seat. He was formerly the preserver of the extremely mouthy, extremely anti-Corbyn MP Jamie Reid, who basically threw away his seat, as unpopular as he had made himself. It was lost to the Tories in a 2017 by-election, just ahead of the 2017 main general election. And that really bucked the trend of the Corbyn surge that year there. And the Tories have actually held the seat ever since, now with a 6,000 majority after the 2019 general election. But having been held since the seat's creation in 1983 by Labour up until that point, you would figure Keir Starmer wants it back, and it would be a target seat for him. Therefore, he could do a lot worse than to pick a popular, local, as per his pledge. Stop the sniggers at the back, he made it. I know he's broken it 1,000,000 times. It still hangs like a millstone around his neck, so let's hold him to it. But he let locals pick their candidates. Of course, he's done the complete opposite. His Stalinesque impositions of candidates against local will is well known now, well documented now. So, of course, it comes as no surprise at all that they've come up with an absolutely pathetic reason to keep Ghayouba out. It's probably the most depraved reason to do so that I've seen to date, though. Copeland CLP has been denied their choice because Starmer and Co have at the due diligence interview produced a photo of Ghayouba taken with a former Labour councillor. The councillor in question had apparently waged a racist campaign against Ghayouba and is currently in prison, having been convicted of child sex offences. Yet somehow the Labour executive have deemed this to somehow be Ghayouba's fault, in that they've used it as their reasoning, at least in part, to deny him a position on the Labour long list, thus leaving the way open for Starmer to parachute in whoever he likes. That is pretty disgusting. That's another BAME potential candidate kept off the candidacy for confected reasoning. Another Muslim at that. So all the accusations of racism, all the accusations of Islamophobia found to be present in Starmer's Labour within the Ford report that Martin Ford himself has stated on the record are there, considered less important than anti-Semitism is in Starmer's Labour. And you can't help but think that if Ghayouba were Jewish instead of Muslim, things might have been different. However, Ghayouba is also a long-standing campaigner for Palestinian rights, and perhaps this is more towards the real reason why he's been kept off. Ghayouba might have found himself going the way, if he were perhaps Jewish instead of Muslim, the way of many pro-Palestinian Jewish members have gone in the Labour Party, and that's straight out of the door, being purged. Well, Joe Ghayouba might not have been shown the door by his party over this, but the Copeland executive have walked instead, collapsing the local organisation, as we've seen in so many places now, on so many other occasions, all due to Starmer and the NEC that he's presided over. They issued a damning statement last night, the Copeland CLP, which reads, in 2020, after becoming party leader, Keir Starmer said that local Labour members should be able to select their own candidates, and that the party should be at the forefront of championing diversity. What we've seen in reality is the opposite. Local members in Copeland have been denied a vote and a voice by the National Executive Committee. Members in Copeland have been denied a fair selection process and will not get to choose their own candidate. The National Party has blocked our long-serving Copeland Constituency Labour Party Secretary, Councillor Joe Ghayouba, from the long list of candidates. Joe is not only a popular councillor, as secretary he led us to a landslide 2022 Cumberland election victory in the 2022 local elections. Joe is a Muslim of Egyptian descent. He fits firmly into the BAME group defined by the Labour Party, for whom rules state there must be at least one representative on any prospective parliamentary candidate long list. Considering that just a few days ago it was reported by Channel 4 News that black Labour MPs fear speaking out on issues of race within the party, we should be doing all we can to support members and candidates from ethnic minority backgrounds, rather than blocking them when they stand. We are particularly disturbed as a CLP to learn that evidence brought up at Joe's due diligence interview centred on a photograph taken by a criminal former Labour councillor. This former councillor, who is currently in prison for child sex offences, waged a racist campaign against Joe and his young family, which was subject to a police investigation. It is beyond comprehension that Labour's national executive gave credence to such evidence in an internal party selection. As a result, and in the face of this shameless disregard for democracy and the rights of local members, we feel we cannot give legitimacy to an illegitimate process by continuing to serve on the Copeland Labour Party Parliamentary Selection Committee, and are also resigning with immediate effect from our roles as members of the Executive Committee of Copeland Labour Party. Now, the Labour Party National Executive Committee is an absolute joke. This was already common knowledge, really, amongst we who pay an unhealthy amount of interest to such things. But it is so heavily weighted these days in favour of Starmer's faction that you cannot see such a craven, despicable move being made for anything but entirely factional reasons. To use a photo taken with a later convicted sex offender who was also a racist and attach you to the point the police were involved when you're both councillors too, we can't really avoid each other. And yet the NEC decides you, the victim, are the unsuitable candidate. I'm absolutely gobsmacked by this story. I'm totally with the local exec. How can you not be? I'd have quit as well. Copeland aren't the first CLP, as I said before, either to walk because of Starmer imposing his will. Harwich and North Essex CLP, 10 of their executive went. New Brighton CLP, their entire executive walked. Wakefield CLP, their entire executive walked. All have walked over Starmer imposing himself upon them, completely undemocratically, and local members won't have it. They're volunteers. They're not there for the National Party to abuse. All the campaigning experience, all the local knowledge, all lost completely because Starmer and Co want a loyal drone installed there. Starmer has earned his nickname of Keir Stalin. He and his party clearly do have, as Ford showed, as numerous other stories have shown, a problem with anti-black racism and Islamophobia. And if you were the sort of person getting enraged at the Labour Party over allegations of anti-Semitism under Corbyn's tenure, and you aren't also as vocally disgusted at all of this, as well as other numerous cases I've certainly covered and others have too, more seemingly are certain sadly to come as well, well, you know what that makes you then, doesn't it? Someone like Starmer, for whom some forms of racism are more important than others. Solidarity with Copeland CLP, solidarity with Councillor Joe Ghayouba, a man, it has to be said, is still, despite all of this, who has issued a statement himself saying how disappointed and angered he is by this, has thanked the trade unions who backed him and supported him through his appeal, is still prepared to work for Labour in the belief that it is still best for his area. I admire the guy's devotion to his party, but when it's led by a man whose devotion is only to himself and power, Labour won't truly be what Joe Ghayouba wants it to be until it's led by somebody who reflects those core Labour beliefs once again. And I don't see someone like that on the horizon. Of course, there are those in the Labour Party who are utterly loyal to Starmer, even though they come from the black communities themselves. Take David Lammy, for example. After you've liked, shared and subscribed to be kept up to date with actual, impartial, independent political views and views, because you've got to the end of this video, and I know you wait with bated breath for the next instalment, you can tide yourself over with this video here, where Lammy defends Starmer, despite admitting that he's a Tory. And I'll catch you on the next video. Cheers, folks.